Hello and welcome back to this tutorial. In our previous video, we learned how to create Python modules and packages, and we were able to create two packages with a few modules inside. All right. In this video, we are going to be learning how to use standard modules, that is inbuilt modules in Python, and also how to use third-party modules. Okay, so what are standard modules? Well, you can also call them standard libraries. And these are the modules or libraries that are already built in Python, right? So these modules and libraries, when you are installing your Python interpreter, that is when you download and install Python in your system, they are automatically installed alongside your Python interpreter. So you do not need to use pip to install it like we have been doing for some of the modules that we've been using. All right, some of these modules we have used them. So, and this includes, I'm going to write them in the comments, the CSV module, the JSON module, the math module, the random module. We will also take a look at some of the important modules that are inbuilt in Python that we have not used. Okay, some of them are, we are going to take a look at the regular expression module, and it is imported as RA, and the datetime module. Then you have the OS and the sys module, and also you have the typing module. Now I'm going to explain these modules a bit, and I'm going to show you a brief summary of how we can use this. Now we have already used the CSV, the JSON, the math, and the random modules. So I might not go into them because we have already used them countless times in our projects. But I'm going to explain and show a basic example of how to use the regular expression, the datetime, the OS, the sys, and the typing module. All right. So now, what is this RA? Now, this RA is the short form for importing the regular expression module in Python. And what does this module do for you? Well, this module helps you to check the inputs or to match the strings that are entered in your program with some certain characters and some certain pattern, right? So, for instance, you are trying to create an application that you're expecting your user to enter it a certain number of character or some certain characters such as cap lock, small letter, then you have special characters as their password or as their username. Now, this regular expression comes in handy when you want to work with, when you want to create such a project. And then the datetime module is a module that helps you to assess the current time that an activity is taking place. All right. So, for instance, you're creating an application and you want for every time a form is submitted, the time should be recorded on the back end. You can use the datetime module to assess that. So that is why sometimes when you post on an application, let's say you post on Facebook, the exact time that you made that post will be there. And that is because they are using something like this datetime module and they are picking the exact timestamp that you're making such post. Now, the OS module is a module that helps you to interact with your operating system. You can use it to create directories, that is folders. You can use it to check your present working directory. You can use it to create multiple folders. Okay, you can use it to delete folders and the rest of them. So this OS module helps you to interact with your operating system, creating folders and all that. Now, this sys module helps you to interact with the Python interpreter in your operating system. So you can use it to get the Python version that you're working with, to get the arguments, to get the parameters, to even get the modules that are installed in your working environment currently, right? So that is what this sys module does for you. And then this typing module helps you with type hinting. So type hinting is a vast topic altogether, but I'm just going to briefly brief you on what type hinting is. So this is a library that allows you to tell the users of your program, both users and programmers, the type of data that should be passed in a function. All right. And this is very useful because it helps to reduce multiple bugs, and it also helps in debugging purposes. So without further waste of your time, I am just going to demonstrate a few of these inbuilt modules that we've not used before and how to use them. So I am going to import some of these modules, and so the first thing I'm going to do is that I'm going to import some of these modules. All right. So I'm going to import RE. So as you can see, we have this RE. We didn't need to install it, but it's already there. Then we will also import datetime and also OS and sys, and then type in. All right. So I'm going to start working with regular expression, and I'm going to be as fast as possible so that we won't spend so much time in this video. So now, when it comes to regular expression, there are a few methods that we are going to be working with, and that includes the search method, the match method, the find all method. So, and I'm going to also pass in the arguments the way in the format that Python will be able to use that module to check the data that you're passing. Okay, so I can create a text variable and I call it text. So I'm going to type in some text. So I'm going to just write that I am a Python programmer, right? And I'm 16. Now we have a couple of data types here. We have an integer, and then we have the rest of them are strings. Okay, so I am also going to probably add in like special characters, maybe like star and this universal at. Okay, so I'm just going to use this text to perform all regular expression methods that we are going to be looking at. So now the first thing we are going to do is that we are going to try to search this string for the right types of data or the right format that we want. And we are going to do that by creating a variable. So I can call it search, and I'll set it to re.search. So as you can see, this search is a method. Now I will open and close my bracket, and I'm going to pass in the letter R and then pass in my string quote. So by now, Python will be expecting some strings from you, and we are going to just write a forward slash, okay, and then pass in the letter D. So this is telling Python that we are expecting some digits, right? And I'm going to add in plus here. So this is, please get me check whether there are digits in this test, and let it be in whatever number or whatever format. Okay, so by format I mean, is it 2 digits or 3 digits or 4 digits? All right, so this is what this means. And if you want to specify the amount of digits, you can come here and pass in your curly braces, and then you pass in 2. So by this, you are telling Python that you are looking for a 2-digit number. All right, so and by the time you are done checking everything, right? Then you now pass in the variable or the text that you want to check. So I'm going to pass in this text. So that is what I want to search. And the next thing is that I am going to write an if statement. So I'm going to say if search, then I'll write my colon. I'm going to write a print statement. I'm going to create a string that says that I found, and then I'll pass in what I found. I'm going to say search.group, right? So, and I'm going to run this. So if we run this, we have this, okay? And it says I found 16. So I am going to change this to the integer 2, and I'll run again, and this will work perfectly fine. So, but if I change this to integer 3, so we are not going to see any match, okay? So but if I add another digit to this and run, we can see now that this works perfectly fine. So another method that we are going to be using is the match method, and this is going to check whether a particular text, right, is contained in another text. So instead of search, I'm going to change this to match, and I'm going to pass in what I'm matching it with. So I'm matching it with the string I am. So I'm going to pass it I am. So it's going to start from the beginning of the text. And then I'm going to write my if statement again. So if search, I'll print just a text positive, and I'm going to run this. So there was a match. Okay. So I'll try to change what is here to I was. And you see, what we have here is I am, not I was. So nothing is printed for us. So the next one we are going to use is the find all. And I am going to pass in, well, like I did before, the digit and with this. And this is, we are saying, please find all digits in, and this plus is like in whatever number of digits. So I can just pass in another 12 and maybe another 3 here. Okay, so if I print this, we see we have positive. Okay, so I'm going to clear the terminal, and I'm going to remove all the integers that are here, and then I'm going to run this. So you can see we don't have any print statement again. Okay, so these are the 3 ways that we can work with for now with regular expressions. So the next module we are going to be looking at is date time. So, and for this we are going to change this import a bit, and I'm going to write that from date time import date time, right? And we'll also import date and time. Okay, so now we are going to access this date time, and we are going to print date time does now. So, and if we run this should give us the exact time stamp of this moment. Okay, so if you look at this date time, you can see a lot of attributes and methods. So you can try to use dot date, dot as time zone, dot combine, dot seek time, dot day, right? And you can just go through this and play with all of them and see what it will give you, right? So the next one we are going to be looking at is the OS module, right? And I'm going to print something, and that is os dot get current working directory. And when I just print this method is going to give us the exact part, the exact folder where we are working, right? And we can also use it to change our working directory, right? So you can see now that we are in modules and packages. So I can change this to change directory, and I'm going to pass in the name of one of these directories. So I can type in sample package 1, and I am going to clear this place and run. Okay, so I may expect that. So I have sample package 1, and we are going to run this. So now this method is returning none for us, and I am going to just comment this out. So I am going to remove this print statement and just run this directly. So if I run this and we try to check the working directory again, so, and I'll print os dot get working directory. So you can now see now that we are in sample package, all right, because we have changed to that sample package 1. Now there are a couple of other things you can do. You can use commands like list directory. So like list directory, and this will list all the directories in your current working directory. You can also use make directory to create one directory. Then you can do make directories to create nested directories. Then you can use remove to remove a particular file, right? And you can also use remove directory to remove one directory, and remove directories to remove multiple or nested directories. All right, now you can even use this OS to get environmental variables. So as time goes on, we are going to also work with environmental variables, and you can use this OS library to check to get the contents of your environmental variable. All right. So the next library that we are going to be working with, the sys library, and also we'll work with the typing library. Okay, so the sys library is used to interact with the interpreter that is running on your operating system. Okay, that is the Python interpreter that is running on your operating system. You can use it to check the version, that is the Python version that you are using, and you can also use it to check the platform you are using, that is whether you're working with a Windows or a Linux system. You can use it to check the modules that are installed and other things like the arguments or variables that are in your workspace. You can also use it to exit your code, and you can also use it to get the exact parts that you're working in. All right, so there are so many things you can do with that. After this video, you can decide to check out more information on how to use this sys library. So, but for now, we are going to just write a print statement, and we are going to be working with a couple of the sys methods or objects. So we are going to check for sys dot version. So we can use version or we can use version info, and the both of them will give us the same thing. So if we print this, so I'm going to comment out the other print statements that we have. So I'm going to print out this if statement as well. So if we print this now, we can see now that we have Python version 3.14. All right. So if I check the sys.platform and print, so this will tell us whether I'm on Windows or Mac or Linux. So you can see we have this Win32, meaning that I'm on Windows. And we can also check for arguments. So for instance, I'm going to run I'm going to run this code now from the terminal. So instead of using this play button, I will use our former method of running this code, which is Python our file name.py. And apart from our file name, I'm also going to pass in other arguments. So, and I'm going to change this to the arg. All right, so we have sys.arg, that is the value of the arguments that are passed in running this script. So I'm going to say Python, and what is our file name again? We call it using modules, right? So we can see it here already. So I'm going to just delete all of that so that we have just the file name. And then I'm going to pass in other arguments, maybe like name. So I'll just pass in something like name and number. So I'm just going to pass in number. So if we run this, so I am going to save this and run, and I'm going to run that command again. So we now see we are using the module Python. We are seeing a list of the arguments that we are using. So the file name is that, then the arguments that are passed are name and number. All right. So I'm going to clear this terminal. And the next thing that I'm going to do is that I will try to use the sys method to check the modules that are available in this workspace, right? That is the modules that we are installed. So, and how do we achieve that? We are going to change that value to modules. So I'm just going to remove that and I will type in modules. So this is going to give us a list of all the modules that were installed here. So you can see we have a bunch of all the modules that we've been working with, because this is our workspace, right? So all the modules in our workspace, we are seeing all of them. So these are the few things you can do with this sys module. And the next thing we are going to be working with is this typing. So, and like we said, it is used in type hinting. So I'm going to write a proper import statement from typing. I'm going to import maybe list. So these are Python classes. So I'm going to also import dict and maybe int and probably maybe str or string. So now we have all of this imported. We can even import tuple. So all the classes that we know, all the data types that we know that are here. And how do we use this type hinting? Well, let's say we write a function and we are passing in something like an integer value in that function, right? So we are going to use this type hinting to specify that the type of value that we're expecting in this function is an integer value, right? So somebody will not be able to pass in a string or just any regular type of integer. So let's say I define this function. So I'm just going to define one function here, and I'm going to call it add, and I'm going to open and close my bracket just like we have been doing, and I'm going to close this. So here, well, we normally pass in the parameter that is required for this function, but this time around we are going to do it a bit differently. So we are going to say that we are expecting x, and we are going to add a colon, and we are going to say we are going to type in int. So now we are just simply saying that the kind of value that we are expecting here is an integer. And out here, we are going to write an arrow. So we are going to write a dash and this arrow, and we are going to pass in int again. So what we have simply done is that we are telling Python we are expecting an int, and the return value that you give us should be an integer. All right. So I can change this to float. So here I'm going to just say, well, x plus 2. So, and or I will just write it in a return statement, right? So return x plus 2. So I am going to just write a print statement and pass in the add function. So I'm going to comment this out so that we'll not have multiple outputs. So, and I'm going to pass in maybe 2.0, right? So, and I'm going to run this. So now you have seen that Python has returned this value. Okay, so we can change this to an integer. So we are saying that we want an integer to be returned, and then I'm going to change this back to 2, and then I'm going to run. So now you have seen that an integer has been returned for us. Okay, so this is how you can use typecasting. When you are passing in, when you are declaring the arguments that you need, you hint the type of value that you are expecting, and then you also write this arrow, and you tell Python the type of value you're expecting in return. Okay, so that is it for some of the standard libraries. In our next video, we are going to be learning how to use third-party libraries and also how to create virtual environments. So thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in the next one.